We have, for the last couple of years, we've been trying to give some attention and some time to our great and phenomenal Green Corps members that do work in various settings and on various topics. And catching up with Leah Payette today, who has been recently our intrepid Green Corps member who was spent, what was it, Leah, I think 3 or 4 days in the Boundary Waters with a group of 6 or 7 middle school students,
It was
introducing them
7 days.
7 days, introducing them to the wonders and the hardships and the travails of our Boundary Waters canoe area. We finally caught up with her and got the announcement out for her talk here. And she's going to talk today about her work forming partnerships and participating in community-sponsored events in the city of Minneapolis to help improve winter road salt management, pathogen load in stormwater, and efforts to improve the city's green infrastructure. So, Leah, with that, why don't you take it away? And the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Mark and Brooke, for inviting me to this. This is fantastic. So, as said, I am Leah Payette. I am the Green Corps member from September 2020 to 2021 to August 2022 of the City of Minneapolis Public Works Surface Water and Sewers Division. So a little bit about the Green Corps member. It is under the AmeriCorps umbrella, and basically we serve different host sites across Minnesota. I believe there are 48 this year, and we carry out fulfill environmental programs and initiatives for these host sites. And so these host sites are educational institutions, government entities, and nonprofits. Our service kind of goes from 3 different components, being essential functions, which is, serving with our host site, civic engagement, which is volunteering in boundary waters, and also training, whether within your host site, within your topic, or if you want to explore something else too. So specifically, the Green Corps topic that I'm under is green infrastructure improvements. And that's kind of split into 2 categories, forestry and stormwater, and I am in stormwater. So a little bit about me. In May of 2021, I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Sciences, Policy, and Management. Kind of a fun fact, not so fun fact, is 1.5 years of my university experience was completely online due to COVID. And I did a 4-year degree in 3 years. So 50% of it was online. At my host site this year, it was also completely online until mid-February. Something that I'm very passionate about is finding and supporting community-based solutions for fighting the climate crisis. So for me, I measure my success not by, you know, sales or salary or, markets met, but really by change and by people. So a little bit of background about Surface Water and Sewers, or SWS, the division that I'm hosting in. So I'm part of the regulatory team in Surface Water and Sewers, and we fulfill MS4, or Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, NPDES, or National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, permit requirements. So this is essentially to restore and maintain the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of waters of the state through management and treatment of urban stormwater runoff. So we are really interested in precipitation, rainfall, snowfall, how it interacts with our land, our impervious surfaces, and how it flows through and what it carries into our bodies of water. whether it be ponds, lakes, or rivers. So kind of the goals of surface water and sewers is to increase awareness of stormwater management and surface water quality issues, to provide information about city programs and operations that will improve surface water quality, and to encourage community involvement and participation in watershed stewardship. And this photo is the team at a Twins game. So I'll kind of go through the really meat and potatoes or areas of focus that I can fit into this hour of what I've done the past year, mainly being chloride reduction, and after that, educational programming and community connections. So beginning with the chloride reduction portion, kind of my magnum opus per se would be the SALT mini course. So the SALT mini course is something that the GreenCorps member before me actually launched. And so what it is, it's an online educational webpage for residents and small businesses to learn about how de-icing salt or chloride impacts local water quality, encouraging winter management without salt, but also, understanding that safety is priority and providing best practices for salt use as well. At the end of the course, they take a salt stewardship pledge, which kind of gives us a more of a quantitative measure on who is interacting with this course. This year, I facilitated the publishing of Spanish and Somali language versions of the SALT mini course. And the SALT mini course is based off of the MPCA Smart Salting program, mainly the Smart Salting for Property Manager certification training, mainly that course. And also, this course itself fulfills our NPDES permit requirements. So as part of that permit, we have to have certain types of educational programming. So a little bit more about the SALT mini course and kind of what I did is I developed it a little further, consulted different chloride experts in our Minnesota community, as well as worked with web page design principals, and just kind of overall developing the page to be a little bit more smooth and palatable for all types of audience. People who may not really have a lot of background or knowledge of water quality, or may not really have a lot of time to dedicate to these issues. So one thing that was a lot of fun is I conducted an outreach campaign for the SALT mini course. And this really began with establishing a relationship with our city communications department. Surface water and sewers and communications hadn't really collaborated much before, so I established some great bridges that will be used past my time in GreenCorps, which is fantastic, and I'm proud of that. And so the communications department helped me kind of just, how to do an outreach campaign in general. My background is science, so I wasn't really sure how to market that science. So they helped me put stories up on city social media. We were covered by local news, KARE 11 and WCCO, so I got to speak on the news, which was awesome. I did different presentations in neighborhoods and high schools on using less salt. We also worked with local watersheds, and they helped promote the mini course on their websites and social media. Neighborhoods also helped us promote through social media. We became a part of the Hennepin County Chloride Initiative, which is a group of passionate anti-salters, I would say, full of a multitude of different groups, some citizen groups as well. And I also created media and physical materials on using less salt. And we had postcards of use less salt sent to almost 6,000 small businesses. And we were also featured in different Minneapolis newsletters. But what the really fun part was is I got to go in person to different community events. So I got to go to a neighborhood Earth Day celebration, a neighborhood spring festival, the City of Minneapolis Community Connections Conference, an event at the Bell Museum. And what was really special to me is when we launched our Somali version of the mini course, I got to go to the 24 Somali Mall, which is a place in Minneapolis where East African residents get together to do shopping, working, socializing, kind of like a little village in a shopping mall, I would say. And that was an awesome experience. And I'll touch a little more on that later too. So here are some pictures from the event. So the top left is me at Spring Festival. Had a lot of signups from that day through our Salt Mini Course pledge. The picture to the right of that is me and Farhia. So she is the East African Community Specialist for the city of Minneapolis. And it was really special because she invited me to observe prayer time, which is why I am wearing that traditional headscarf. So that was really special and made great relationships with Farkia and that community. And then to the right of that is kind of one of the little activities that I had at an outreach event. To the bottom left is the Use Less Salt postcard or handout that we sent to send a version of that to local businesses. And also that's just kind of what we hand out when we go to, well, when I go to events. And then the bottom right is little kiddo interacting with an enviroscape, which kind of shows how water travels from land to water bodies. And it was a great demonstration to show exactly how salt does that and just to get the kids reeled in. So another component of my work with chloride reduction was working with our street department, or officially named the Transportation, Maintenance, and Repair. So they have been doing chloride reduction for decades now. So it was really up to me to strengthen that relationship with the leaders and kind of connect that to our own chloride reduction work in surface water and sewers. And I'll tell you that I made great, great strides with those relationships. And that is another thing that I'm really proud of. So one thing that came out of that is I created a web page that kind of entailed all of the chloride reduction efforts that the street department was doing, just to kind of have it all in a concentrated place. I also did a budget proposal. So there was a East Side facility that was built recently, but there was an entire like salt storage component that was designed and ready to go, and for whatever reason the budget was dropped for that. And I kind of came upon that through just various meetings with the street department leaders. And they were really disappointed in that because we don't really have much current capacity for salt storage. And so what I did is I went out to all of the sites, all of the salt storage sites, and kind of noted how they may not be exactly in line with permit requirements, or more so how they could be improved. And so to street department and surface water and sewers leaders, I presented on this budget proposal saying that we need to get this budget back for salt storage at this facility, and kind of compared it directly to permit requirements and had recommendations come out of that. So that was a lot of fun comparing, kind of real life standing in front of a giant, giant salt pile and then boiling that down to particular lines of a permit. Another great accomplishment that I had is I scheduled 200 crew from the street department to obtain their Smart Salting for Roads certifications, or go through the training to obtain that certification. And the last time crew went through that training was 8 years ago. So this is something that I'm very excited about, and they're scheduled to go in the fall. And so really kind of encompassing all of my activities with the street department was just getting chloride reduction at the forefront of conversations. These are the people that are actually applying salt. They have the expertise, they have the experience. So how can we keep pushing reduction as a topic of main concern? So there are also components of a chloride reduction, new components of chloride reduction within surface water and sewers. So last May, we hosted an MPCA Smart Salting for Property Managers certification training. So we had people from a couple of different divisions from the city and others come and get their certifications. Chloride reduction was also inputted into our stormwater utility credits program. So basically the gist of this is if property managers do particular stormwater management practices, they get money off of their utility payments, their stormwater utility payments. And so what became part of a required portion of their application was that they had to submit a chloride management plan for their site, and I helped implement that. Another way that chloride reduction newly became introduced was through the Chapter 54 or the Stormwater Management Ordinance. And this is where in the operation and maintenance plan of a new development, there must be a chloride management plan for that site. Another fun thing is Adopt a Drain and our partnership with Hamline University. They included salt education in their classroom curriculum. So I got to kind of help with the beta testing of that and kind of see how we can further educate the youth and get them interested in salt and how it interacts with our local water. And also I created something called the Minneapolis Chloride Scope. So this is basically a one-pager, two-pager of how Minneapolis has interacted with chloride reduction, our accomplishments, and our goals for our future. So in surface water and sewers, in public works, in the street department, we have a lot of new leadership that came in this year that are just getting familiar with our goals and kind of how we function. And so this scope was something that we created to just give them a straight shot of what we've done in chloride, why it's important, and why we need to keep continuing those efforts. And this photo is me and the team at a green stormwater infrastructure tour. And kind of how I guess that relates to salt is they often choose to have salt tolerant plants go in those vegetation beds that are near roads. So another bigger portion of my work was educational programming. So as part of the NPDES permit, we have something called a stormwater management program. And this basically details exactly how we need or how we can meet permit requirements. And mainly I was working with the educational portion of that stormwater management program. So kind of first and foremost, I conducted a needs assessment. So what is our division doing right now to meet these educational requirements? And what is missing? What do we need to do in the future to continue further meeting these educational requirements? So I conducted a needs assessment, and what came out of that were certain recommendations. And kind of I guess the main result that came out of that was I created an educational activity inventory tool. So every year, Surface Water and Sewers has to collect all of the educational activities that we and our partners have done to put in our annual NPDES permit report. And the way that was done was mainly via email. There wasn't really a central collection standpoint. You weren't really able to kind of go back and see what was done in previous years other than the actual report itself. So this was just a simple smart sheet that we sent out to different education partners and in our team ourselves, and just to kind of directly align, okay, how did my educational activity specifically meet these permit requirements or specifically meet the stormwater management program? So that is another thing that is going to be used beyond my GreenCorps term. And it also, an inventory is also a part of the permit requirements itself. So creating that inventory was fulfilling the permit as well. Um, this was really great in that it kind of boosted the efficiency of NPDES reporting, so saving us time and just further supporting the team. Another thing that I'm currently doing is assessing our education partners. So we have different partners that are with City of Minneapolis Surface Water and Sewers that help us carry out our educational initiatives. And this summer we are bringing everyone together and establishing kind of a common theme and goals. So we all know that we are promoting water quality and doing initiatives separately, but there might be some overlap. There might be some points of collaboration. So kind of how can we funnel our efforts and give more pack to the punch? So that's something that I'm quite excited about. Another thing that I established that was also a permit requirement is the runoff newsletter. So this is an internal newsletter for surface water and sewers that kind of just details the happenings of what kind of events and more fun things that are going on in the division, and just kind of help people get to know what's the other person doing. Uh, 3 rows of cubicles down from me, especially because we have both the regulatory and design team within surface water and sewers. So I know I keep saying I'm doing fun things, but I would say one of the really fun things that I did is organize a pollinator planting event. So this was in the Jordan neighborhood, and we brought together people in the neighborhood and we planted some native wildflowers and plants to support the butterflies and bees by the Jordan Pond, so the pond in their neighborhood. And it was great, and I really like to see how people come together and they're just also passionate about one thing, and they really have seen their neighborhood be transformed in the last 10 years to become this habitat for healthy vegetation, for the butterflies and the bees, but also just a place of recreation and kind of a place of gathering and solace, especially throughout COVID. So through the GreenCorps, there are a couple of different opportunities that I can pursue that are outside of my host site. So outside of surface water, outside of green infrastructure improvements. And I kind of have just highlighted my favorite ones. So the first one is, which was touched upon at the very beginning here, was I just got back from a Boundary Waters trip. And this is through the program called Project Success. So I took 6 middle schoolers, 6 11-year-olds up to the Boundary Waters. It was their first time camping, first time swimming in a lake, a lot of firsts, and it was just a chance to get them connected to nature and, kind of breed the next generation of environmentalists, I'd say. So that was done through my civic engagement or volunteer hours that I have allotted throughout my service term. Another thing that I am doing this month, actually, I'm currently studying to my green associate. And so what this is a credential that shows that I am knowledgeable about sustainable or green building design. This has a little bit to do, a lot to do with stormwater, but I also just wanted to take the opportunity because I had the time allotted within my term to explore things that weren't particularly explicitly focused on stormwater. So I did a couple of anti-racism workshops through the Intercorps Council, which is an AmeriCorps council. So that was really fruitful. I went to the Refed Food Waste Solutions Summit. So again, not much to do with stormwater, but food waste is, one of those really, really big topics that we are facing, and I wanted to learn more about it and be more of a well-rounded environmentalist. So that was fun, and I went with a couple of other GreenCorps members as well. Another thing that I attended was the um, shade tree short. So this was more so focused on the forestry portion of green infrastructure improvements. And also I obtained the property management and the sidewalks and parking lots smart salting certifications. And kind of the most fun part was, I keep saying there's so many fun parts, but there really is supporting other members' events. So we GreenCorps members, we're all in different host sites, and we come together every quarter for trainings. And I have definitely found new friendships through GreenCorps, as we're all young professionals, all looking to make a change in whatever sector we are. And so through different, volunteer events that they would host, a couple of us would just all pile into a car and go help out. So this top right photo is where we were helping maintain a long-term climate change study with Mississippi Park Connection, one GreenCorps host site. And then that bottom photo is me and my team, my crew at the Boundary Waters. So those are me and my middle schoolers. That was fantastic. I got back 2 days ago, so it's all very fresh in my mind, and I still have bug bites. I will say that one thing that I did not include in this presentation is that through my service, through surface water and sewers and chloride reduction, the city of Minneapolis received a chloride reduction leadership award, and that will be handed out at the SALT Symposium in beginning August. So I am very thankful for that, and it is an awesome accomplishment for both me and the city of Minneapolis. So I should have given that a whole slide, but well, now you know. So that really is just the meat and potatoes, kind of the all-encompassing quick rundown of what I have done in the past year. It has definitely been a year of growth for sure. Having the first couple of months be completely online and then switching to hybrid, mainly in person, was just such a treat after living my life, all of us living our lives online for so long. I really enjoyed working with different neighborhood associations and being able to get face to face with people and, asking them, hey, do you use salt in the winter? And just kind of seeing their eyes go big when I tell them that the lakes that they swim in the summers are getting pretty severely impacted by the salt that they put down in the winter. So I definitely will be a salt steward for the rest of my life, past my GreenCorps term and service in chloride reduction. I'm still gonna be knocking at businesses and telling them like, hey, I think this is a little bit too much salt. I have this website you could check out and you could save money. So I think I will be certainly involved in salt for the rest of my life. And it's just such a, you know, dynamic, interesting group of stewards and so many intersecting partners that go into these topics of water quality. And it just, you never cease to learn anything new. It's just constantly learning and applying that, and then learning again, and then adjusting it and applying it again. So it's been a really great experience, and I'm glad I got to share kind of the bones of it with you all. So, that's it. Went through a little faster than I thought I would, so that's great. More time for any questions or comments. So I'll open up the floor.
Well, thank you, Leah. Nice presentation. We do have some questions and comments in the chat. If you wanted to, I usually when you're presenting, it's hard to see the questions pop up in the chat. So I will give you just a moment to open the chat. And if you want to just start from the top, and then it looks like Elise has a question maybe, or she was just trying to raise, or she was going to clap, but raised her hand because now her hand is down. And then she
Yeah, sorry, this is Elise. Good job. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Elise.
All right, yeah, I'll go through the chat. So, yes, I can certainly share the links to the TV news stories. I'll have to take 2 minutes to find them and copy them after I answer the rest of these questions. But yeah, it was on WCCO and KARE 11. So, okay, more info about the Somali mini course. So, part of kind of our educational work in surface water and sewers is we want to implement equity. So, kind of reaching groups in Minneapolis that have been historically and currently underserved by the city and just generally. So, through kind of salt management, I was thinking, okay, well, I mean, how can we do that? This is an educational program. We can't really, we don't hand out salt or anything. That's really not what we're trying to do. So I really went back to the educational component and the access of it. Who can access this? And there are a lot of non-English speakers or English as a second language speakers in Minneapolis. And so we went with I worked with the communications department. They have kind of like special divisions within their department that work on accessibility and equity. And we came up with getting translations in both Spanish and Somali for the mini course. So when you go on the mini course online, right at the beginning, it will say, like in those languages, access the course in Spanish or access the course in Somali. And so to promote the Somali version of the webpage, I worked with the East African community specialist of the city of Minneapolis, Farhia. I had a picture with her earlier in the presentation. And so what I did is I just kind of, talked to her about her community. I really was not familiar with the Somali community of Minneapolis and kind of, what's their relationship to the environment? What is their relationship to local waters in Minneapolis and how they may use them? And so we took a trip to the 24 Somali Mall, a place of shopping, gathering, community. And I just kind of walked through the mall with her, met all the people that worked there, chatted them up. I tried some Somali food. Farhia showed me all of like their traditional clothing that they wear. So it was really just really kind of get as much as I could into the community and get to know a little bit more about them before I just started kind of, throwing things out at them and doing my promotion. So then later that week, I went back to the mall and actually, set up my table and had my salt education materials out there. So it was nice because they already knew who I was and they already knew what I was there to do, and that kind of, set it up for them to be interested in it. And Farhia helped me translate as many of them did not have English as their first language. So that was really, really awesome. Okay, so this is from Mike. Another effort we're trying to implement is enhanced street sweeping to remove leaves in the autumn and address phosphorus concerns. Yes, I'm a big fan of street sweeping. I always get excited when I see them out on my street. The sweeping folks are likely the same people you worked with on salt issues. Yes. Please describe your thoughts on working with these public works people. How are they with new approaches? What strategies work best to help them understand and adapt to some of these new practices? Thanks. So I think that just persistence. Sometimes emails would kind of get lost and there wouldn't be a lot of communication for a couple of weeks as they have a lot going on. The street department, they have a lot of different responsibilities. They're always out on the field, they're boots on the ground. But you just kind of have to be like persistent and remind them that you are there to support them. So for me, it was like important to not show up and be like, I'm gonna tell you what to do, like you need to do this and this, like you need to change, but it's more so like you guys are the experts, you guys have the experience, you tell me how I can support you. So really just kind of making sure that the narrative was clear and that surface water and sewers is just there to help them understand the permit and help them fulfill it. So I mean, really just persistence. And they have, so much expertise on application of salt, on the actual equipment. I've never applied salt in my life. I think it's awesome. I know a lot about salt now, but I've never applied it in my life. So it was really important to me to first and foremost learn from them before I could kind of give them recommendations on how to apply and I guess meet permit requirements better. So I hope that answered kind of those questions, but really it just boils down to kind of being persistent, um, being very like clear on what your goals are and having like an established narrative that you are there to learn from them who have the experience and kind of learning how you can support them and then providing those recommendations. So Elise gave me a little high five for the leadership award at the SALT Symposium. Thank you very much. And oh, Candace is on here. Hey, Candace. You're welcome. So, okay, this is from Amy. Great experiences and thank you for sharing. Who helped guide the types of projects you worked on? Is it primarily the partners who asked for assistance from GreenCorps, or does GreenCorps assist in guiding the projects? So, when I first started, there was a work plan which was designed by the GreenCorps programming, but also my supervisor, Sharon Misagi, who is incredible. And so it's kind of just like basically a bullet pointed list of here are some things like we would like you to help out with, here are some things that we would like you to start. And so it's kind of up to the GreenCorps member to navigate that and turn a single bullet point into a full-fledged working program. So I would say that, I mean, the main ideas come from GreenCorps as we have like specific topics that we're in, like, green infrastructure improvements or, chloride reduction is one of the emphases that we have. But then in terms of the actual, rolling out of the programs, it's the GreenCorps member themselves to, I guess, be responsible for asking partners kind of how to get started. I hope that answered your question. But okay, that was everything in the chat. So I will open it up to the floor right now if anyone wants to say something out loud, but I'm also gonna find those links to the news stories.
And we have another question here from Shandy that she can either just unmute and ask you, and I just wanted to mention too, on this discussion of the translation that we're partnering with the Lower Minnesota River Watershed Management Organization, and we're going to be offering the first ever smart salting training in Spanish with a translator actually in the room to translate. And we are working hard to get our manual. We did have the manual translated about 1.5 years ago, and we are working hard to get that prepped and ready to be up on the website. So we are excited about that partnership with the Lower Mississippi Watershed Management Organization to offer our first ever smart salting training in Spanish. So I don't know if Shandy, you want to just ask your question to Leah while she's looking up those links?
Yeah, sure. I was just wondering, when you were working on the Somali and the Spanish materials and stuff, was there actually anything you changed about your program to help reach those communities better, create a better understanding, connect with them more?
So what we did, and I worked with kind of a specialist on this in the communications department, so this came from them. Nicholas No is his name. Is we kind of boiled it down to the main points. So if we had 5 takeaways that we wanted somebody to take from the Salt Mini course, that is kind of what we included in the translations. Mainly being that it was kind of like the first wave of the translations. So depending on, how much action the web pages got, or depending on, what different kind of feedback we may get at events, there's room to alter that and just to kind of like start at the beginning. And also just recognizing that these are very resilient communities that have a lot more challenges and a lot different challenges than, most typical Minneapolis English-speaking residents face. So they don't necessarily have as much capacity to like allot their time towards these things. Nor do they, come from communities that even like discuss climate change or environmental issues in general. So just kind of starting at the beginning and doing kind of like the main points first, and then kind of going from there depending on what kind of feedback we get. So I highly recommend like working with someone who knows these communities and someone who, like knows how to reach diverse audiences other than your own before putting out any kind of things like that.
Hey, thank you so much, Leah. Great job.
Thank you. It was a really, really great experience, and I felt like I really was a good representative of the city of Minneapolis, especially the Somali, but a lot of really nice words and good feedback from that community, which was really special to me as I, didn't want to feel like I was stepping on any toes or anything. So I sent that first news button in the chat, and I'm going to pull up the second now.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Leah, for posting that in there and for sharing your work. It's been a lot of fun getting to know Leah and getting to work with her over this last couple of months. And it's going to be sad when my little group of GreenCorps members is done in August. We've had a pretty good group, I'd say, Leah, wouldn't you, of different members working on chloride in different ways. It's been fun to bring them together I think it was every 2 months we met to share their work, learn from each other, and it's just been a lot of fun working with all the GreenCorps members and especially Leah. So thank you for agreeing to share your work with us here at Water Issues. It's so much, I just really enjoy learning more about the work our GreenCorps members do and the great impact, obviously, that the GreenCorps program has across our state. And so thanks again, Leah, for sharing your work with us today.
Yeah, I'd really like to echo what Brooke just said. It's really, to me, it's inspiring, Leah, to see the kind of work you're doing out there. Primarily because, you know, you are on the ground working with people who can really make a difference. You know, I think for somebody like me, I'm often talking to like-minded people on projects, and I don't get the insight that you do in your work in working with communities and partnerships in making this stuff actually happen. And so it's great to see, and thanks for your willingness to share that with us today. It was a great talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And just to point out, Candace did send a little bit more of details about the GreenCorps program specifically in the chat if you guys want to check that out. But I really appreciate the kind words, and I do think that I've had a very successful term, and I still have until mid-August, so we'll see what else I can do before the end of it.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot. And you know, good luck in the rest of your work. It's certainly making a difference, I think.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for everyone for joining us. Our